Hey guys, happy evening. Greetings from Maple Crest Mountain House. We're up here in the Catskills Mountains in New York, about 2.5 hours outside the city, where we part-time homestead up here. So we've been away for 2 weeks, so very curious to see the state of the garden. It has just been crazy rains, but crazy sun. It's also, mid-July, so up here, which is a little bit behind, further down the mountain in most of New York, these past 2 weeks were when really things were starting to kick into gear in terms of growing. So probably not the best 2 weeks to be away, but let's go see how things are going. So here's the first one we just built this year. We'll probably do another video recapping some of that. But this is, as I said, a keyhole shaped design. This is on a drip system that we also put in for the first time. This is made from hemlock. We did our other one, which I'll show you in a second, from cedar, but the cost of lumber, especially cedar, was just insane, I'm sure, as many of you guys know. So hemlock is similar in its sturdiness. It won't last quite as long, but food safe, all of that. A heck of a lot cheaper. This is a lot of growing space we added. It's about 76 square feet. The long sides there are 12 feet. And then each of these, I think, was 3 feet. And then about 2 feet here for a little walkway, the keyhole design, and 3 more feet. So first up are the cabbages. So these are looking a little rough. We did have a little, I think it must have been cabbage worm or something. I saw them in there 2 weeks ago. And you can see something had been nibbling at the leaves, and then I actually saw, the little green caterpillar or it's worms, whatever they are, as well as some of the larvae. So looks like some aphids too. So we've been spraying it with BT. The key thing is, did they sort of eat the center, or are they still going to grow? I have no idea. It looks like the centers have still been growing and that there's a head forming. I'm hoping they're salvageable. We started these indoors, I guess late winter, and I was weirdly excited. I mean, we like cabbage. It's also really easy to preserve in terms of making sauerkraut, which is what we did last year with stuff we just bought from a farm stand. We didn't grow cabbage, but we'll keep an eye on it. Any ideas, let us know. We're just continuing to keep an eye and spray BT. It's the best we can do, I guess. So let's keep looking. So we have the cabbages essentially interplanted with some stuff. There's some just sage and herbs, some sage and some sage over there. We also have some stuff that'll just take a little bit longer to grow. So carrots, here's some parsnips here. These will take a bit longer. These take about 100 days. We have a lot of cucumber. There's 2 kinds. These are the market moors. These we did not direct sow. These we got as starts from a local nursery. We do have some that we direct sowed. I just saw these when we were at our local nursery buying some flowers. And they just look great, and we had some space, so wanted something that was a good slicing cucumber. These actually look fantastic. Cucumbers, I guess, don't transplant as well as some other things, hence why we direct sowed ours originally. But these are looking great. I mean, these are massive. The flowers are beautiful. There's not a lot of powdery mildew, which can happen a lot with cucumbers. Maybe it just doesn't happen with market moors as much. Right now, just trying to keep them vertical so they're off the ground and kind of, a little bit safer that way. The other big thing that's on this right side of the garden are these beans. These are just bush beans. These take about 2 months, 55 days it looks like from the label. And they're looking good. I mean, you can already see a bunch of beets forming, yay! And then a few square foot plots of beets. So these are Detroit Reds. We grew these last year. These are overall pretty good. We'll see. These actually should be moving along fairly well. And these were Detroit Reds as well. These take about 60 days, and I think we're about 30 days in. A few more beets over there, and just some more carrots, parsnips, etc. And then a big flowering sage. I think it's like a Russian blue sage or Russian sage to get some good pollination. Yeah. So things looking okay over here. I think one lesson learned for next year would definitely put insect netting on the cabbages right away when they're young, when we transplant them from indoors. I had read about that. I knew that was sort of a way to protect against sort of the moths, I guess, landing on them and leaving the larvae and the caterpillars that form the caterpillars or the worms in the first place. Just didn't do it. So anyway, lesson learned, we would just do that early on next year as a precaution, and that way hopefully we can avoid it. But everything else is looking good, so let's keep going. So this side is more cucumber, a lot of peppers that we have, and then interplanted with some flowers and herbs and some other things. So we'll start in the back here. So this is some of the Marketmore cucumber that's carrying over from over here. There's about, I think, 2 or 3 plants here. Then we have peppers. We have 3 right here. I labeled all of these, but when I moved some things around, I lost track of which was which. So peppers, we have a mix of cayenne, Tabasco, jalapeno, and then bell peppers. So we will keep an eye out on which these are. That's definitely a Tabasco. I have the right label there. This one, clearly a different pepper. Some stuff forming. You can kind of see, look really closely. Right here. And all of these are little buds. So that'll be good, whatever those are. Again, another cucumber back here. I have a lot of cucumber. Some herbs. There's some more rosemary, some more herbs. There's also some echinacea back there that I planted. That will take about a year to actually get proper flowering, but something kind of cool, good progress. That's borage, which is just beautiful. That came in a cocktail herb kit a friend gave me. They're edible and they're just gorgeous. I mean, look at those, kind of like bright blue, purple. So this is one of the Bragger cucumbers. This is a hybrid meant for pickling, or at least good for pickling. So that's kind of the size you're going for. This one I started indoors. We did not direct sow this here. But it took well. I was a little bit concerned. There was some powdery mildew and it just looked a little bit dodgy for a day or two, but then it seemed to take. But lots of cucumbers forming here. We've actually already had some full-size ones from this plant. So this one we just keep gently sort of trellising up this really cheap cage we got. And then there's another one over here of the same, another one of the Braggers. Transplanted that away, but this, some really lovely buds. Even some little peppers right there. Oh, look at those. I don't know if you guys can see those. You can kind of see right there. So these are maybe jalapeno. Again, hard to tell at this point, but they get a lot of really good peppers here. So very exciting. Yay. This is just an oregano plant. Interplanting herbs in general is good. Flowers as well, interplanted, can help distract and or act as traps for some of the pests that would normally, go to the veg. This is a nasturtium. This is good just because the flowers are beautiful. I'll show you in the other garden. We have some further along. They're edible, the flowers and the leaves. Back here is some radicchio. It's a My Gardener radicchio. I can't remember the name of it. But I'm really excited. We love radicchio. It's supposed to turn red, so I'm very curious to see if that happens, or if I just planted the wrong thing. More peppers here. You can see some gorgeous little flowers there. And then this is just a bunch of watermelon radishes that you can tell something's been nibbling the leaves, but that usually doesn't affect the radish itself. Again, we just spray BT and we'll keep an eye. These are watermelon radishes, which take a bit longer. I think these take about 60 days compared to some of the others we had. Celery is looking gorgeous. We got these as starts from a local nursery just to fill some space, and just some dill that clearly has flowered and gone to seed and blown over from the heavy winds we had, but it looks okay. It's not broken. So overall, this part's looking okay. So again, this was all square foot method, Hugo culture filled, handmade, hand built, handcrafted, but a lot of fun. So this is what we call the gated garden. This is what we made last year, though we did a little bit of expansion this year. This was our first attempt, and really pleased with it. So these are cedar beds, raised obviously, and we did these as self-watering. This was, recognizing that while we were spending a lot of time up here, kind of during the height of the pandemic, wouldn't always be the case. So, how could we make it a little bit lower maintenance? So we'll talk a little bit about that. Super excited that it's actually working. And we were super proud of what we did. We researched a lot in terms of how to do, what kind of raised beds we wanted to do. I think I was the one that maybe cracked on to the whole self-watering, self-irrigating. And then Jared really dug into, how to go about doing that. What do we need? What's the best way? How do we fill it? And it was brilliant. It made us, our first year of gardening last year, pretty easy. And so we got excited and wanted to expand, and so we did. There are 5 beds in here total. We had 3 last year, these 2 ones right here, and then that one back there. And then we added this year 2 more over there in the corner, which we'll walk to. We also built this really cool tomato trellising thing on 2 of them, which we'll do another video on. And then we also squeezed in a bunch of containers because we just had a lot of starts that we needed a place to put. So this looks a little bit like an overgrown tomato forest. Normally it's a bit tidier, but because we've been away for 2 weeks, really need to get in this weekend. But this pretty much is tomatoes. There's some celery and some herbs kind of on the end. There's some really gorgeous calendula, part of the Oktoberfest mix, which are just stunning. In the middle, there's some leftover romaine lettuces that are just clearly on their last leg, but they were just amazing and just gorgeous. And then there's some basil interplanted amongst the tomatoes, but yep, for the most part it's tomato. We tried to put the indeterminate types in here, meaning the ones that keep growing essentially till the frost, hence the trellising, which we'll show you in another video. We just did that this year. I tried to go through and get some of the suckers, which are those little things that kind of grow in between, literally suck energy. Tried to clear some of the under leaves. Oh look, you can see some tomatoes right there. This looks like aroma. Some of these I confused my labels on. But that'll be a big bulk of this weekend, but we're really excited. Tomatoes was like the one thing we didn't have enough of. I think we canned 25 pounds, maybe 35 pounds last year into jars, and pretty much used all of them. Oh, look at that. There's some really good ones started right there. Other ones right here. Oh yeah, those are looking good too. A ton in here. These are, there's a few dark stars in here, which I think get kind of like a really dark, almost like a purpley red. Those are looking really lovely. And then on the end, we just have a bunch of cilantro that I let go to, or kind of flower, just to get some more pollinators. It still smells gorgeous. So this romaine lettuce from M.I. Gardner, I wish you could have seen a couple weeks ago. It was absolutely stunning. We've been trying to harvest it and use it quickly. It just tastes amazing. There were probably about 10 heads in here that we've already used, and clearly being gone for 2 weeks, they've bolted. So we'll taste it. Maybe we can still salvage some of it, but it had a really good run, and we will definitely be planting more of this later in the year for fall. I think another cool thing in here that I was like weirdly excited about was this holy basil. So if you love basil, and especially love like Vietnamese or Thai food, this is exactly what that is. If you smell it, it just smells like a bowl of Vietnamese pho to me. And then the calendula is kind of interplanted within here. It got bigger than I would have thought. I probably would have done less, but they're beautiful. This was the Oktoberfest mix, so just a mix of really gorgeous bright colors. So this bed looks a bit of a disaster right now. Again, there's just some tomatoes that need tidying. There's a lot of Roma tomatoes in here which get really bushy, but then sort of do all of their fruit at once. There's also a couple of these tiny tins, which I wasn't quite sure were actually doing something, but actually looks like there's some fruit. So these are a little bit more of a small bush variety, and the tomatoes themselves and the plants remain quite small. We interplanted some green onions in here, which is awesome. Like, those are great to have around. We always use those pretty much for everything. This zucchini, I was out here earlier and already harvested 3 zucchini. These are looking good. We did way too much zucchini last year. Didn't know we liked it that much and frankly got sick of it, but it is really good for preserving. We did a really good zucchini relish that we used on like sausages, fish, chicken. Weirdly good. Got that idea from my neighbor. And then also just made a bunch of like zucchini bread, zucchini muffins, and then froze them. So not thinking of grilling and or broiling and or roasting and or steaming zucchini all the time actually made us re-like them again. So this area needs also a lot of tidying. I swear things look tidier. You have an exploding nasturtium, which again, didn't realize they actually got as massive as they do. So just need to cut that back a little bit. That really exploded while we were gone. This tomatillo plant that will free up some space. This sage plant that I'll probably take out at this point. This actually just overwintered from last year. It was great for bringing in pollinators, but now that we have some other stuff going, more nasturtium. This was a mixed Alaska, which the colors are just gorgeous. But again, all edible. This thyme is from last year that overwintered, so I'll probably start to cut that back. More cilantro and celery. Really excited about these tomatoes. We have a few of these plants going. These are Midnight Snack. So it's a cherry tomato, and you can tell they're just really dark. So there was a lot of room in here. We added a bunch of containers because we just had extra stuff and we were looking for extra room, and putting it in the gated garden where it's, you know, literally gated, and hence more protected, was compelling. But now when things are growing, I feel like I'm gonna get eaten by this tomato or this nasturtium. But over here, this is again something I'm weirdly excited about, but we have 4 5-gallon buckets of potatoes. If you've never tried it, it was super easy to set up. We'll do another video on that. We captured some of that, but essentially it's just getting seed potatoes. We got ours from Wood Prairie Farms. I'm doing 2 per 5-gallon bucket, doing sort of just an easy mix of potting mix, maybe a bit of perlite or vermiculite and compost, and keeping it watered and you know, giving it some nutrients. But they've been fantastic. I mean, the green is just incredibly strong and robust. 2 of the buckets now have these white flowers forming. The other 2, I wish you could have seen them. They had gorgeous like purple flowers. It's the Huckleberry Gold potatoes, which are, I don't know if they're blue on the I think it's blue on the outside, but with gold flesh. So the flowers were like this really gorgeous purple, but those have gone away now. If you think these are beans, you are incorrect. This is a massive, overflowing, several kale plants from last year that overwintered and hence are now producing their flowers and their seed in their 2nd year. We're never going to have to buy kale or kale seed for the rest of our lives. All right, so on the other side of the kale, which was okay with a bit of shade, we have some beets and some kohlrabi. Beets are super easy. We've grown those before. Already harvested a bunch from here. These were our first batch, but got kohlrabi. So those are like massive, really good for coleslaw and preserving. So you can see the beets there. There's some last ones kind of poking out. I definitely harvest those maybe this weekend. We'll leave them until next weekend. But if you look at the kohlrabi, check that out. We'll double check when we're supposed to harvest them, especially these that are kind of getting stuck, but those look absolutely amazing. So things look overall okay. A little bit intense after being away these 2 weeks. Probably, again, not the best time, but wasn't exactly a choice. But definitely have our work cut out for us this weekend. Maybe we'll try and grab some more video and photos post cleanup. But meanwhile, off to dinner, fresh pasta with the fresh chicken eggs and some of this good garden goodies. So thanks for watching and see you guys next time.